A woman doesn't come home one night. The next morning, she tells her husband she stayed at a girlfriend's house. Suspicious, the husband calls her 10 best friends. Not a single one knows anything about it. A man doesn't come home one night. The next morning, he tells his wife he stayed at a friend's house. Suspicious, the wife calls his 10 best friends. 8 of them say, "Yep, he was here." 2 of them even say, "He's still sleeping on the couch." Johnny's dad told Johnny to take a shower. "I'm scared. Can I take a shower with you?" Johnny said. "No, son, that would be weird," his father replied. "Pleasey," he cried. Okay, but just don't look down." Johnny, being the curious boy he was, looked down. "Dad, what's that?" he asked. His dad gave him a weird face and said, "That's my limousine." A couple days later, Johnny's mom wanted him to take a shower. "Please, can I take a shower with you? I'm scared." "Okay," his mom said, "but just don't look up or down." Obviously, Johnny was curious again, so he looked down. "Mommy, what's that?" he asked. "That's my garage," his mom said awkwardly. Johnny proceeded to look up. "What are those?" His mom looked disappointed. "Those are my headlights." That night, Johnny was having a nightmare, so he went into his parents' room. "Mommy, Daddy, I had a nightmare. Can I sleep with you?" His mom said, "Sure, but just don't pay any attention and keep your eyes closed." Johnny had another nightmare and woke up to a moaning sound, like a dying goat. He jumped and screamed, "Hurry, Mom! Turn on your headlights before Dad's limousine crashes into your garage!" Bill worked at a pickle factory. After years on the job, he finally confessed to his wife that he had a terrible urge. He couldn't stop thinking about putting his penis in the pickle slicer. His wife gasped, "Bill, you need therapy." But Bill shook his head. "Too embarrassing. I'll fight it off myself." Weeks later, Bill came home pale as a ghost. His wife rushed over. "Bill, what's wrong?" He whispered, "Remember that urge I told you about?" Her eyes widened. "Oh no, you didn't." Bill nodded. "I did." Terrified, she asked, "Bill, what happened?" He sighed. "I got fired." She pressed, "No, Bill. I mean, what happened with the pickle slicer?" Bill lowered his head. "Oh, she got fired too." A woman in a supermarket hurries to the express line with a few items. The cashier has his back turned to her, so the woman says, "Excuse me, I'm in a hurry. Could you please check me out?" The cashier turns, looks her up and down, and says, "Nice tits." Listen, a job is a job. We all need to put bread on the table, right? I'm a telemarketer, not the most popular profession, but hey, I actually enjoy it. The other day I called a house and a really sweet lady answered, polite, cheerful. The kind of person who actually makes a telemarketer's day easier. After some small talk, I asked, "Is Mr. Smith available?" She sighed and said, "I'm sorry. He doesn't live here anymore." That was a bit disappointing, but I stayed professional. "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Would you happen to have his new number?" "Of course," she replied happily, then gave it to me. I hung up, dialed the number, and a recording picked up. "Thank you for calling Green Acres Cemetery." The plumber called and asked why I haven't paid for the job. "Naoki did last week." I said, "I paid exactly what you quoted." He replied, "I never gave you a quote." I said, "Yes, you did when I asked when you could fix it. You said you were free on Friday." 2 Irishmen were flipping through a mail-order catalog. Patty says, "Look at these beautiful women. And the prices are reasonable, too." Mick nods. "I'm ordering one right now." 3 weeks later, Patty asks, "Did your woman arrive yet?" Mick replies, "Not yet, but it's But it shouldn't be long. Her clothes came yesterday. A nurse asked a patient to remove his clothing and put on a gown for the doctor's exam. In front of you? He asked shyly. The nurse replied, "Well, no, but I've seen the naked human body before." The patient shook his head. "Not one like mine. You'd die laughing at my body." "Of course I won't laugh," said the nurse. "I'm a professional. In over 20 years, I've never laughed at a patient." "All right, then," said the patient. He dropped his trousers, revealing a huge body with the smallest adult male organ the nurse had ever seen. In both length and width, it looked almost identical to a battery. Unable to control herself, the nurse tried to stifle a giggle, but it slipped out. Then she laughed even harder at the fact that she was laughing. Feeling terrible for laughing at her patient, she composed herself as best she could. "I am so sorry," she said. "I don't know what came over me. On my honor as a nurse and a lady, I promise it won't happen again. Now, what seems to be the problem?" "It's swollen," the patient replied. The nurse ran out of the room. A vacuum cleaner salesman knocked on my door. Before I could even say a word, he dumped a bucket of dog poop on my carpet and said, "If this vacuum doesn't remove every trace, I'll personally eat what's left." I replied, "Well, I hope you're hungry. They cut off my power this morning." A couple received a $350 hotel bill despite only staying one night. The receptionist explained, "It includes access to the pool, spa, and conference center." "We didn't use any of that," the husband protested. "Well, it was available to you," the receptionist replied. The husband scribbled a $50 check. "This is short," the receptionist said. "Exactly. I'm charging you $300 for sleeping with my wife." "What? I didn't?" "Well, she was available to you." An elderly couple were sitting in a diner when the husband leaned over and said, "Do you remember the very first time we kissed and cuddled behind the village tavern more than 50 years ago?" His wife smiled. "Of course I do." "Well," he said, "how about we take a stroll back there and relive the memory, for old times' sake?" She laughed. "Oh, Jim, you're such a rascal, but why not?" A police officer sitting nearby overheard them and thought, "I've got to see this." So he quietly followed as the old couple shuffled down the street. When they reached the fence behind the tavern, the two leaned against it, hugged each other tightly, and suddenly began shaking and jumping around like teenagers again. The officer's eyes went wide. It looked like the most energetic moment he'd ever seen. After a while, they both collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily. When they finally got up, the officer approached and asked, "Excuse me, but that was amazing. What's your secret?" The old man wiped his brow, steadied himself on his cane, and replied, 50 years ago, that wasn't an electric fence." An elderly couple was driving cross-country when a highway patrol officer pulled them over. The wife was behind the wheel, but she was a little hard of hearing. Officer: "Ma'am, do you realize you were speeding?" Wife to husband: "What did he say?" Husband: "He says you were speeding." Officer: "May I see your license?" Wife: "What did he say?" Husband: "He wants your license." She hands it over. The officer looks at it and says, "Ah, Arkansas. I went on a blind date there once with the ugliest woman I've ever met." Wife: "What did he say?" Husband: "He says he knows you." A grandmother was cleaning her attic, her cat faithfully following her around. While sorting through old boxes, she found a dusty old lamp. Curious, she gave it a polish, when suddenly, poof, a genie appeared. "I'll grant you 3 wishes," the genie declared. Grandma thought carefully and said, "I wish to be 20 years old again and beautiful. I wish to have more money than I could ever spend. And I wish my cat would become the most handsome prince in the world." The genie nodded, snapped his fingers, and disappeared. Grandma looked at herself, young, radiant, stunning. Around her were stacks of cash higher than the boxes in her attic. She twirled and laughed as the bills floated down like confetti. Then she turned to her beloved cat's spot. Standing there was now a tall, dark, incredibly handsome man with broad shoulders and a movie star smile. He walked over, cupped her face in his hands, and whispered softly, "Now, do you still wish you had taken me to the vet?" An old man went to the doctor, worried that his wife could barely hear. The doctor said, "Here's a simple test. Stand far behind her and ask a question. Then move closer bit by bit until she finally responds. That'll tell us how bad her hearing is." Excited to finally get an answer, the old man rushes home and finds his wife cooking dinner. From 20 feet away, he calls out, "Honey, what's for supper?" No reply. From 15 feet, "Honey, what's for supper?" Still nothing. From 10 feet, "Honey, what's for supper?" Silence. Finally, standing just 5 feet behind her, he asks again, "Honey, what's for supper?" His wife spins around and says, "For the 4th time, it's lasagna." A husband came home from work, stormed into the kitchen, and declared, "From now on, I'm the man of this house, and my word is law. You'll cook me a gourmet meal, serve me dessert, and after dinner, we're going upstairs to have the kind of night I want in the bedroom. Then you'll draw me a bath, wash my back, dry me off, bring me my robe, massage my feet, and here's the best part. Tomorrow, guess who's going to dress me and comb my hair?" His wife looked up and replied, "The funeral director would be my first guess." Grandparents' answering machine. Good morning. At present, we are not at home, but please leave your message after you hear the beep. 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 If you are one of our children, dial 1, and then select the option from 1 to 5 in order of birth arrival so we know who it is. If you need us to stay with the children, press 2. If you want to borrow the car, press 3. If you want us to wash your clothes and do ironing, press 4. If you want the grandchildren to sleep here tonight, press 5. If you want us to pick up the kids at school, press 6. If you want us to prepare a meal for Sunday or to have it delivered to your home, press 7. If you want to come to eat here, press 8. If you need money, press 9. If you are going to invite us to dinner or take us to the theater, start talking. We are listening, I'm sure. A blonde got tired of all the jokes about her hair and intelligence, so she dyed her hair, got a makeover, and decided to take a drive in the countryside. She came across a shepherd with a big herd of sheep. "Sir, if I can guess exactly how many sheep you have, can I take one home?" she asked. The shepherd chuckled, thinking it was impossible, but agreed. "You have 171 sheep," she said confidently. Stunned, the shepherd admitted she was right and told her to pick one. She carefully chose her favorite and started petting it proudly. Then the shepherd smiled and said, "Okay, now if I can guess your real hair color, will you give me my animal back?" She laughed and agreed. The shepherd said, "You're a blonde. Now, please give me back my dog." A Boeing 777 was cruising smoothly at 33,000 feet when a cocky young F-16 fighter pilot zoomed by at Mach 2. Over the radio, he bragged, "Hey, Captain, check this out." He did a barrel roll, shot straight up into the sky, then came screaming back down with a sonic boom. "Pretty cool, huh?" he asked. The 707 pilot calmly replied, "Very impressive. Now, watch this." The big jet just kept flying straight and level for 5 minutes. Finally, the captain came back on the radio. "Well, what did you think of that?" The puzzled F-16 pilot asked, what did you do?" The 777 pilot chuckled. I got up, stretched my legs, used the bathroom, grabbed a coffee and a cinnamon roll, and booked 3 nights at a 5-star hotel, all paid for by the company. Timmy attended a horse auction with his father. He watched as his dad moved from horse to horse, running his hands up and down the horses' legs, slapping their rumps, and putting his hands on their chests. After a while, Timmy asked, "Dad, why are you doing that?" His dad replied, "When I'm buying horses, I have to make sure they're healthy and in good shape before I buy." Timmy, looking worried, said, "Dad, I think the UPS guy wants to buy Mom." Today I walked into a store that sells only shoes, nothing else, not even socks. A young woman with neon green hair and more ink than a newspaper looked up from her phone and asked, "Hi, what brings you in today?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "I'm here to buy a microwave." She blinked, twice. You could practically see the loading bar over her head. I haven't seen anyone that confused since I tried to program my TV remote with the ceiling fan. Later, while resting my knees and pretending to browse, I got to thinking, getting older is like still having the ball, but being too tired to chase it when it rolls away. People walk into my house, spot the litter box and say, "Oh, you have a cat?" I just smile and say, "Nope. It's for guests who stay too long." You know those forms that ask, "Who should we call in an emergency?" I always write 911. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? Trying to lose weight after 60 is like trying to unfriend someone who lives in your house. You and the fat have built a relationship. You've shared snacks, cried together, made peace. Want to find something you lost? Just buy a new one. That's when the old one magically shows up, usually in the fridge or behind the couch next to your reading glasses. Ever notice that the Roman numeral for 40 is XL? That's right, extra large. Ancient Romans were sneakier than we thought. A kid's middle name isn't for tradition, it's for discipline. When you hear your full name yelled from across the house, you know it's Judgment Day. Did you know that if you combine they and IRS, you get theirs? Sounds about right, doesn't it? Eventually, you stop lying about your age and start adding extra years just to hear people say, "Wow, you look great." I've never tried to hide my age. I want people to understand why my knees pop like popcorn. I've been through things. Some of those roads had potholes big enough to lose a small dog in. Youth is about energy. Age is about comfort and naps. Glorious, guilt-free naps. So, Lord, if you're listening, keep one hand on my shoulder and the other over my mouth, because sometimes I almost say what I'm really thinking. And may you always have laughter to lift you, change for the vending machine, shoes without blisters, and friends who bring snacks. 3 sisters were getting married within the same year, and their slightly nosy mother had just one request. Wherever you go on your honeymoon, send me a postcard with one phrase that sums up how things are going. You know, romantically. A few days after the first wedding, a postcard arrived from Greece. It said only, "Sun fresh orange juice." Mom blinked, ran to the fridge, grabbed the carton and read the slogan, "Bursting with natural goodness." She turned pink, but smiled proudly. A week later, a second postcard came from Canada. It said, "Ever cozy blankets." Suspicious but curious, she looked it up online. The tagline read, "Warm, long-lasting comfort all night." Her blush deepened. But again, satisfaction. Then came silence from the third daughter, who'd gone off to a remote island. 1 week passed, 2 weeks, 3. Nothing. Finally, after a whole month, a postcard arrived. The handwriting was wobbly. It said, "Turbojet Airlines." Her heart skipped. She raced to find the slogan in an old travel magazine. There it was. And her jaw dropped. Non-stop service. Morning, noon, and night. Both directions. She dropped the magazine and had to sit down. I raised them well, she whispered, fanning herself. My husband and I pulled up to the McDonald's drive-thru window. I handed the cashier a $5 bill. Our total was $4.25, so I also gave her a quarter. She said, "You gave me too much money." I replied, "Yes, but that way you can just give me $1 back." She sighed, went to get the manager, who asked me to repeat my request. I did, and he gave me back the 25 cents, saying, "Sorry, we don't do that kind of thing." Then the cashier handed me 75 cents in change. Don't confuse McDonald's employees, folks. We had to get our garage door fixed. The repairman told us the problem was the motor wasn't big enough. I said, "We have the biggest one, a 1/2 horsepower." He shook his head. "No, you need a 1/4 horsepower." I said, "Half is bigger than a quarter." He replied, "No, 4 is bigger than 2. Yeah. We didn't call him again. Living in a semi-rural area, we recently got a new neighbor who called the city council to remove the deer crossing sign. Reason: too many deer are getting hit by cars. It's not a good crossing spot anymore. You can't fix stupid. My daughter went to a Mexican fast food place and ordered a taco with minimal lettuce. The worker said, "Sorry, we only have iceberg lettuce." At the airport, an employee asked me, "Has anyone put anything in your baggage without your knowledge?" I said, "If it was without my knowledge, how would I know?" He just smiled and said, "That's why we ask." I was crossing the street with a coworker who asked what the beeping pedestrian signal meant. I said, "It helps blind people know when it's safe to cross." She gasped, "What are blind people doing driving?" She's a government employee. When my wife and I picked up our car from the dealership, they said the keys were locked inside. We watched a mechanic trying to unlock the driver's door. I tried the passenger door, and it was already unlocked. I said, "It's open." He said, "I know. I already did that side." Stay alert, friends. They walk among us and breed